let's talk about online bullying and trolling and all that kind of shit. Only let's talk about it in a genuine and educated manner rather than scaremongering, fearmongering, and trying to make some kind of big issue out of something that isn't necessarily a big issue. Now, unfortunately, it's going to be necessary to preface this video with a quick little disclaimer. Okay? I'm not saying harassment is okay. I'm not saying trolling is okay. I'm not saying any of these bad online behaviours are okay. I'm just trying to address and deal with the situation as it actually is and offer solutions in the world in which we live. Right, that out of the way. Okay, you say something online, you're almost guaranteed to get someone disagreeing with you. And someone disagreeing with you is not harassment, it's not trolling. Even if they're quite vociferous or even rude about it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're being hateful or nasty or anything else. They are disagreeing with you, sometimes forcefully. And that's kind of what you want when you put an issue out there. You want engagement, you want discussion, normally anyway. So that is not trolling, okay? Now, let's get to actual trolling. Here's what a troll actually is, and this goes way back to Usenet, okay? When you're trolling, what you're doing is you're saying something outrageous and stupid to try and elicit a reaction, okay? It doesn't mean that the troll actually believes what they're saying. It doesn't mean they're actually sexist, racist, whatever. It doesn't mean they're homophobic. It means they're after a reaction, okay? They are cunts. And me saying that isn't misogynistic. It's what you call people like that, okay? They're cunts. They are absolute and utter sociopathic cunts. However, alright, this is the important bit, it's not sincere. It's not evidence of some kind of vast misogynistic conspiracy, or racist conspiracy, or homophobic conspiracy, or transphobic conspiracy, or whatever else. They are trying to elicit reaction. And in order to elicit that reaction, they go for whatever weakness you happen to display. So, if you're a woman, particularly if you're an active online feminist, they are going to give you shit about being a woman. They're going to say shit like, oh, get back in the kitchen, or you're ugly, or whatever else, or go shave your armpits, because they're trying to elicit a reaction. So they go with the stereotypes, and they go with the kind of things that they know are going to wind you up. If you're a Christian, they'll go into your forum and they'll give you shit about your religion. Now, that's different to, and let's say, an atheist like me wanting to discuss with you or try and poke holes in what you believe. If they're trolling, they'll just be horrible about it. Okay? If you're pro-choice, they will go into your forum or whatever and they will post abortion pictures, you know, those fake ones of the babies chopped up and all the rest of it, because they're trying to elicit reaction. And the same thing will happen anywhere and everywhere. Even if they don't know exactly who you are or what's going to trigger you, to coin a phrase, they will still post things that are likely to get a reaction, like goatsy or whatever else, things to try and disgust and upset you. And this is not okay, but the important thing to recognise is that it's not sincere. So while it's a problem, the problem is sociopaths online being able to do this with impunity. Okay, it's not indicative of any deep social ill. You know, if someone gives you sexist trolling, it doesn't mean that there's a big online problem with sexism. It means there's a big online problem with trolls. Okay, with me? Right. So, 99% of this shit that comes your way, if you talk about anything, and I include myself in this, 99% of this stuff that comes in, you can safely ignore. And it's a good internet survival skill to learn how to recognise what's bullshit and to ignore it. So if you're on Twitter, say, and you get 20 tweets of vitriolic abuse from someone, go and look at their profile. Is it an egg? Do they have a handful of followers? Are they only following a handful of people? Is their total tweet count less than 1,000 or so? Alright? You look at all that. If any of these things are true, then pretty much they're a troll. Okay? And they can be safely ignored. Pay no attention to anything they say. Block. Mute. Move on. Okay? The other thing you can do is look back through their track record, because some trolls have been around for a while. They don't necessarily get banned or blocked straight away. Look back through their history, see the kind of things they're talking about, who they're talking to, what they're saying, If you see a pattern of behaviour, block, ignore. Okay? That's the easiest. We have the tools to control what we see. Now, there's some controversies about that with things like the block bot and so on, but on a personal basis, I don't think there's an issue with blocking and muting if you feel that you need to, if you need to control your feed. Block bots and so on, this is a different issue because it's blocking people sight unseen, and not necessarily because they're trolls or harassers or bigots or whatever, but just because of some kind of political position they hold or disagreement that they have. And that's the flip side of this. That's the danger. If you block and ignore and you mute everybody who disagrees with you, you end up in a nice little hug box, and you never have your views challenged, and that tends to make people into extremists. So you need to watch that. So yeah, the old advice is still the best. Don't feed the trolls. Ignore them. Don't engage with them unless you really, really want to. Sometimes it's fun to punch back for a bit, but don't expect anything to come of it. So that covers that. So like I said, 99% of these things can be safely ignored. The remaining 1% are people who are genuinely and absolutely psychopathic or sociopathic. They reckon it's something like 1 in 100 people. So if you're online and you have an audience of thousands, you're going to get 10, 20, 30 people who are genuinely a little bit touched and disturbed, which is a lot. But even so, most of these can be safely ignored because they ain't going to do shit. They're just obsessive people online who will argue with anyone and anything that comes along, and they have a particularly warped point of view, but they're never going to follow up on it. I mean, think about it. How many death threats that are made online actually get followed up on? When it does happen, it really, really makes the news. It hits the news. You see it. And it hardly ever happens. We maybe hear about 1, maybe 2 incidents a year, and how many arguments and flame wars and trolling and harassment things go on online every day, and how many result in actual murders. You've got to have a rational assessment of the risk here. Okay? So those few that maybe do disturb and upset you, there are remedies for them. You can report the accounts, you can talk to the police if you really, really want to. There are remedies, and you can still block these people out of your point of view. And so maybe 1% of trolling tweets or messages, whatever you're going to get, are from people who are being genuine, and maybe 1% of those are actually worrisome, and maybe 1% of those are people who might actually act on it. So do not overassess the risk, okay? There really isn't much of a risk. So what's the solution to this? There isn't really. Like I said, the age-old wisdom, don't feed the trolls, is really the only thing you can do, because the cost, socially and intellectually and in every other way, of making the internet safe and secure is too high. Trolls operate on a basis of anonymity, and if you take that away, it's not just trolls you're hurting. Internet anonymity helps political dissidents in other countries. Just look at how it played out in the Arab Spring. How important social media was as an alternative to mainstream media in those countries where it was censored and controlled. Anonymity is important for activists, even in our civilized countries, so that they have means to communicate outside of the mainstream, away necessarily from prying eyes, as long as they can maintain their anonymity, and there are tools and so on for doing so, proxies and all that. But those are also tools that are used by trolls. So this is everything you need to keep in mind when you advocate changing, controlling, altering the law, doing other things to try and control trolls. You have to think about the fallout of what you're doing, how it will affect activists, how it will affect political opposition, how it will affect, say, gay teens who are looking online for advice and help and are worried about the situation at home. The anonymity from their friends and family while they explore this aspect of themselves and look for help and assistance is hugely important. Men, women who are suffering domestic abuse sometimes need anonymous ways to go and find help. And these are all the things that you put at risk when you advocate changing the way the internet operates in order to make a safe and secure space for you. It's within our own control to ignore trolls, to deal with them personally by blocking, etc. And that's really the only way that preserves freedom for everybody else. Unfortunately, if we want that freedom, trolls are simply going to be a fact of life, and the only way to deal with them is on a personal basis. So please stop taking all these trolling messages and things as confirmation of your own personal crusades and activist bias, because they're not sincere, but far and away they're not sincere. They're just trying to get a rise out of you, and every time you do go running to the media or appealing to government to please do something, think of the children, you're just playing into their hands. You're giving the trolls what they want, and you're risking a free internet. And just please be mature and stop it and think about what you're doing. Peace out.